All right. Well, James, really appreciate you coming here. Just for a quick context and background, I was wondering if you could just kind of give a little bit about, what you've done, your overall kind of career background, what you've done in the outdoor space.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me, Hal.
For
This is
sure.
awesome. Good to meet up in Austin. So I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug early on in my career. I cut my teeth in marketing working for Deep Eddy Vodka. At the time, it was just a small distillery and warehouse up in North Austin, and we were even hand wrapping labels around the bottles and had a tiny little production line there. And I was lucky enough to intern for a group called Do 512 based here in Austin the summer after my sophomore year in college, and came back to network with him. And he's like, yeah, I know about the startup vodka company. And one thing led to another. And I went to go work for Brandon and Clayton and Chad over there at Deep Eddy. And that was just an awesome experience to kind of get my kind of like hands-on MBA, if you will. Got to touch a lot of different facets of the brand. I worked in marketing, but learned how to activate a brand, but also learned the sales side of things and how do you kind of work cross-departmentally, and how does finance check in with sales and marketing, and how does operations fit into the whole piece. And that was just an amazing experience for me. I thought I was going to go to law school. I majored in history and English in college, and I was going to go work for a couple years, and just enjoyed that experience so much. I was like, I'm not going to look back at that and keep going on this business route. Anyway, stayed with them for a few years, and the brand actually ended up getting acquired by an awesome family-run business out of Kentucky, Heaven Hill. I followed one of the co-founders, Clayton Christopher, over to Mighty Swell, which is a hard seltzer brand. I was our director of marketing there for a couple years, and enjoyed that experience too. I think we learned a lot about how competitive that RTD space is, and Mighty Swell is still here in Austin and then distributed in a lot of different states across the country and doing well. From there, I had an idea for kind of more of a custom fit hunting apparel, and I felt like this is when systems in hunting apparel started to become more of a thing, like you would a tailored suit. People are starting to think about their camouflage outfit head to toe, especially if you're going out west or going on some kind of expedition several days in a row. You want your gear to perform. Anyway, I met a couple other guys on through the local Ducks Unlimited chapter, and we started working at meeting at nights and thinking about this brand that we ended up starting called Duck Camp. And Sim Watley was the original founder, and myself and another guy joined him as minority owners and partners in the business in 2017. And so we started Duck Camp, and they still have a storefront here in Austin and one in Houston, and then sell online and wholesale as well. But yeah, I learned a lot about hunting and fishing apparel. We really started as a wing shooters brand, and then we kind of transitioned it to a cast and blast brand where servicing people who love to fish and hunt and be outside. So learned a lot about the outdoor industry and tried to apply some of the things I learned in CPG in terms of social media and performance marketing and that sort of thing. And COVID hit, which is actually a boon for Duck Camp and for outdoor brands, because people are buying the clothes they need to go explore. I know my wife and I were out fishing a lot more during COVID, and so I moved on from Duck Camp and joined Epic Western. I was our CMO at Epic Western, which is a ready-to-drink cocktail, tequila ready-to-drink cocktail. Kind of has like outdoor Western type branding and vibe to it. And it's 100% agave, blue agave tequila in the can, so the real deal, canned and produced in Jalisco, Mexico. And really enjoyed that experience. Great group of founders. And I went and joined King Ranch for a little while, working on their King Ranch saddle shop as well as their kind of hunting operation on the ranch. Helped develop a lot of new hunting and fishing apparel for the King Ranch saddle shop business unit. And that was the first kind of quote unquote corporate job I've had. It was still in terms of the number of employees that work for the business, but yeah, it was awesome being able to go to the ranch all the time, go to the corporate office in Houston. And since then, I'd been reading a lot about this fractional CMO role and how the general marketing agencies kind of starting to fall out of favor. And I felt like I could kind of take those experiences being a CMO and a head of marketing across CPG and other consumer lifestyle brands and help other founders and CEOs out. And so I did kind of an accelerator program, read a bunch of books, and launched my fractional CMO business and just under 2 years ago. And I'm lucky to be doing that. I love just partnering with people, helping them solve their problems, and great group of brands that I work with, mainly as my experience indicates in the outdoor space. My company's called Outdoor CMO LLC. I also have some CPG, had a ranch real estate client before. And then lastly, I know this is a lot because I'm had a lot of different jobs and roles, but I started a brand called Juniper and James, named after my twin babies. They're now 2 years old, and we're making performance golf apparel and golf lifestyle apparel. And I'm actually wearing it head to toe today, and brought you a little gift of shorts, which we can talk about later. But
yeah, we can pull that up. Yeah, awesome background, great context, and I think it's really, really interesting having that experience at Deep Eddy, where you're able to see so much of the business and you're able to see that explosive growth and be part of that experience, because I think that's an opportunity that most people don't get, right? And having that exposure really kind of helps you understand like what's required in entrepreneurship, as well as like for a specific business to really, grow through a couple different inflection points and stages. So that's really interesting. Also, too, such deep background with apparel and really understanding the kind of outdoor market for apparel. So, I mean, I think the one big thing I wanted to ask you is working with brands and helping start Duck Camp and then working at King Ranch. What do you think makes marketing in the outdoor industry fundamentally different? And I think a key thing is like credibility. Like, how do you build a credible brand in the outdoor space?
Yeah, great question. And I think the first thing that popped in my head was core credibility. I think authenticity in that space, if you don't have it, nobody's going to pay attention to you, because people don't buy products, they buy stories about themselves. And I think when you're looking at an actual hunting trip or an actual fishing trip or backpacking or hiking or any of these other outdoor pursuits that we love, consumers who are into that lifestyle, they want to actually see how it performs in a real life scenario. They don't want to see a polished model on a white backdrop. I mean, sure, you need that to see the features and different product attributes if you're on a product page of a website. But I think marketing in the outdoor space, you have to be authentic in all of your content, and you kind of need to be a media company to a certain extent. The content needs to be very lifestyle forward and less polished. I think you can shoot it in really cool ways, and we've done that a lot in the various brands. But I think basically trying to let that outdoor consumer into your world behind the curtain, showing behind the scenes product development, getting out on actual excursions, actual hunting, fishing, canoeing, kayaking trips, biking trips, lets that consumer really relate to the brand more and create that emotional connection.
So one thing you mentioned, which I thought was really interesting, is how you talked about the growth of Duck Camp, where you spoke about you were waterfowl hunter focused and you're like more broadly like the cast and blast category. I'm curious about how that ties into credibility and authenticity, because one kind of consistent thing I've heard about the outdoor space is anywhere you go, any vertical, you're going to have these very passionate, dedicated consumers. And so how do you remain authentic? How do you really understand those customers? How do you really make sure the brand is really focused on that core group? And then how do you grow out of that?
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. I think, when it comes to that space, I feel like a lot of it is, all right, define who we really are from the start. And then who do we want to be in 5 years? Who do we want to be in 10 years? But really nailing it down from the beginning of, all right, this is a brand, for us this is a brand called Duck Camp. We were for the waterfowl hunter, first and foremost. We weren't really even thinking about the fishing side or the elk hunting side or these other types of pursuits. It was like really niched down in terms of the problem here is people in the South, wing shooters in the South, duck hunters, upland hunters, dove hunters, they don't have a lightweight, breathable shirt that it doesn't fit like a trash bag. It's like you go to an academy and pick up something at the time that's really cheap, and they call it an outdoor shirt, but it doesn't use performance fabrics, breathable fabrics, and it doesn't fit very well. And so that was the problem we were trying to solve. But we understood that these Gulf Coast states, Texas, through the Gulf Coast states, like they don't really there's not really a wing shooters brand, and so we wanted to be that wing shooters brand. And originally it was Duck Camp Wing Shooting Goods, and then we kind of evolved it from there. I think part of it is seasonality for hunting apparel brands too. Your spring and summer is a little slow until people start thinking about hunting season again and gearing up. We all like the three of us owners and partners. One grew up in Texas, one grew up in Louisiana, and I grew up in Alabama. And we all like to bass fish and go down to the coast and catch redfish. And we were like, why don't we take this same concept and kind of apply it to a fishing shirt. And A, that's what our consumers want, and B, it helps fight that seasonality in the spring and summer.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious about something else you mentioned where you said how outdoor brands need to think like a media company. So some of the biggest brands are functioning as media companies. So like Meat Eater, for example, I think that was a media company first, and then they have like First Light, and then they've spun up other products around that. But should outdoor companies think of themselves as like content production engines or like media companies first, and then product companies second, or how does that relationship work?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent. I think sometimes if you get, yes, you need to be really good at creating original content, branded content. But if you are only focused on that and your product quality starts to suffer and your supply chain breaks down, well, then you're just putting out some cool content under the guise of an apparel company or a gear company. So I think you got to find the right balance of like, okay, we're constantly iterating on our product and making it better to suit the needs of outdoorsmen, of your target customer. And I think one of the main things we honed in on early, this ties into the authenticity, core credibility piece that we were talking about earlier, is we would actually send our samples out, the first iterations of the product, to our team of ambassadors and friends of the brand and say, please wear this season, try to beat it up, scuff it up, climb under barbed wire fences and get blood on it, and just let us know how it holds up. And we would make iterations to the product or the fit, or they'd say, I feel like we could put another button here, or we could add a zipper here, and we would then iterate on that sample for the next round of samples, send it back to them. And so we were truly field testing products and making them as good as they could be before we took them to market. So yeah, I think a big part of it is like listening to consumer feedback early and often. And I think a lot of brands in the fashion space, or if you're chasing trends, that doesn't matter as much. But in the outdoor space, getting that field testing and early trial is really important.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about, so for you as a fractional CMO, you obviously have a ton of experience now, you're working with a bunch of brands. What is your kind of playbook when you step into a brand? Where are you looking at in terms of like biggest constraints that brand might have for scaling? Where do you see the consistently like they're the biggest problems? Like for you, like maybe, I don't know, what's the kind of top 5 things you're going to look at immediately?
Yeah, I think, every company has different pain points, but the one thing that's in common is they all have them, no matter what stage you're in. I've worked with some brands like Pre-Launch, an outdoor gear, kind of hard good type company, Pre-Launch, and helped them with their go-to-market strategy, which design their tech stack, how are we going to go to market? And hey, we're going to set up our DDC here on this Shopify stack, and we're going to use Klaviyo for email, and we're going to do this for SMS, and we're going to partner with these ambassadors, and here's our community marketing approach. And then also, should we test out wholesale? Yeah, I think it's probably worth testing it out. Let's put together a target list of accounts and our wholesale materials and go to market that way, and then we'll kind of adjust from there. That's one example. Another example is a brand that's doing 5 to 10 million. That operates a lot differently than the pre-launch stage, and that 5 to 10 million dollar in revenue brand operates a lot differently than a 100 million plus. And so I think, again, they all have pain points. But first thing I like to do is just, and this word is so overused in marketing, but do an audit and say, sit down with the founders, do just kind of a interview style. And I'll have a list of questions, but a lot of times it's just kind of almost being a therapist for the founder, or the CEO, like just spill it all out to me. Like what are your biggest pain points? And then devising a plan around that. I like to kind of pick 3 to start. Like, okay, these are our 3 biggest pain points. Now let me go back and work on a plan and a strategy to go solve them. So I like doing that initial audit. And then, a lot of times people are like, well, we don't really have a marketing budget, or we feel like our social media is not very good, or we want to run paid ads. And it's like, well, a big part of my job is to develop the overarching strategy for that first, and then I'll help you fill it in with the resources, like a great performance marketing agency like you run. I can refer them to you guys and say, these guys are great at what they do. Your paid ads will become more efficient, and I'll be able to kind of like translate those insights and create an executive dashboard for them to go look at and get a quick snapshot of how our direct response marketing is doing. So yeah, I would say just identifying those top 3 areas, and then going, solving them, or at least working on it, and then working on some bigger picture projects while you're more in the tactical phase.
Yeah, Yeah, it makes sense. I think we run a pretty similar process. The audit is so important, and I know everyone does this, but we've just found you have to run a diagnostic, right? You have to kind of go through the entire, like, I don't know, it's the same thing that if you have a problem with your car, they're going to run a diagnostic process to figure out like where the issue might be. And then from that, we do the same thing. Like we try to keep it as just a few very important, high impact, high leverage things that we want to work on, because there's infinite things you could be doing on a business at any given time. However, a lot of them are just not actually that high impact, right? They're kind of noisy. Maybe they seem pretty cool. They're shiny objects, whatever it might be. But it's really difficult sometimes to have that conversation with a founder and be like, no, actually, you should only be doing like these three things, and like, just only focus on that for the next like couple of months, because there's so many different tempting things that are out there. But also too, there's all this pressure, right? Maybe they saw something on LinkedIn or somebody recommended something, and they just feel like they have to do so much. But the reality is it's always better if you do less. It's just really important to figure out what those things are, which, you need to do in an audit or a diagnostic process. Which is, I'm really curious. So now you're working with these brands, you have all this great experience. Now you're starting your own brand, which is something I'm personally very interested in doing myself. But so you're building Juniper, James. What if, and we can, show these, this is a hero product, right?
Yeah. I brought you our shorts, or our golf shorts.
Let's do we'll show it for the cameras. But what, do you want to give a quick kind of breakdown of what this is, and as well as your other product lines?
Yeah, and the reason I brought that to you was, I think you'll love the shorts, especially in the heat in Texas. I think I wanted to talk about the concept of the hero product, because that's something I've been really trying to drill down on, and as a performance marketer, but I think sometimes people, they get too scattered on, okay, we need to have ads, we need to be pushing marketing on every single one of our products. Not really. There's kind of the 20-80, 80-20 rule of like, I think you and I talked about it the first time we met. It's like the majority of your sales and interest in your product in your brand rather, is going to come from one or two products. And that could be a hero product itself, or it could be a hero feature, I'd call it, or a hero brand leg to stand on. So you look at like Sitka gear in the hunt space. Well, they have Gore-Tex. They're the best waterproof, true performance stuff out there. And they have pretty cool camouflage patterns too. But really, it came down to, okay, this is going to keep me dry and warm no matter what the condition is. Viore sportswear, athletic wear, it's like they're fabric.
So I have a pair of Viore shorts that are pretty similar to this. It's very interesting. I'm excited to try these out because I like those shorts, but they seem very similar. It's the same fabric, same kind of setup. So
you have to run a comparison test.
Yep.
But yeah, those are a nylon 4-way stretch pair of shorts. And when you're starting a golf apparel company, at first I was like, our polos have this awesome burr cooling fabric and highly technical, but still have a soft hand feel. And I felt like that was going to be our leader in terms of the products, but early indications were still less than a year into it. People are loving the shorts, and the main reason is nobody really makes a great golf short that's classically styled like that. They can translate into everyday wear well and look nice enough, whether you're playing a country club, a nice public course, or just in your backyard barbecue with your buds. Like I wear them, started wearing them every day. Somebody said it's like athletic shorts and country club camouflage.
That's good.
Funny.
Yeah,
really highly technical fabric. It's got a gripper waistband in it. We did some fun features like a microfiber cloth in the back right pocket so you can wipe your sunglasses. We've got a glove loop so you can loop your glove in there instead of keeping it in your back pocket like most golfers do. When your glove's sweaty, it's going to stay sweaty. And so
nice. Yeah,
we just did a few things like that are golfer forward, that I feel like really try to speak to that golfer who's trying to get to a single-digit handicap, or at least thinks about golf like a single-digit handicap. So anyway, that's my bid on the golf shorts. But I think just going back to the hero product concept, I would encourage most people with a physical product to just really think about that and dedicate a lot of the efforts and ad spend and branding efforts around that hero product. And then you get people in that way, you get your customers in that way, and then they'll be interested in the rest of your product line.
Yep. 100%. We talked about this before, but for us, a big thing that we're doing with a lot of the brands we work with is really quickly try to identify that hero product. And I think there are kind of three key things that we're focused on. So one is the profitability of that product. Can we scale a lot of spend behind that and have an aggressive customer acquisition cost on that product because their margins are so good on it? The second thing is it needs to be kind of a hot product category, which I think is really smart in what you're doing, because I feel like shorts, specifically golf shorts, is something where people are consistently trying to find a better option. And then I think the third thing is it's something where somebody's willing to kind of try new things in it, right? So it's like, all right, I really love whatever, this kind of like clothing line, but I'm always consistently trying out new shorts because they're so uncomfortable. We had this with a supplement company we worked with, but like creatine is a great hero product because people are constantly trying out new creatine for some reason, where they might be more consistent with protein. But I think with that, we found is if you can identify your hero product, develop a really good new customer offer on it, that is just really compelling, like it's a seasonal offer, limited time only, whatever it might be. And then that is your kind of key entry point to like a customer segment or an audience segment. And you can really scale prospecting through it. But if you try to just advertise your entire SKU catalog or all the SKUs you might have, it's just, you're going to be stretched so thin and you're not going to be able to kind of consistently test different, creative or offers or concepts around that one product, which is so difficult.
Right. Yeah, it makes total sense. Well, question for you. So say a founder's like, yeah, I know we're selling this shirt really well, or we're selling this creatine really well, but I really want to get our protein powder sales up. How do you respond to that from a paid ads perspective? Do you start a whole new campaign or a different ad set within that? And then if it's CBO, like it's going to take that budget and just put it into what's working. Like how do you kind of, in the new age of just thinking about meta in particular, like how do you balance that selling products that aren't moving as well?
Yeah, so we will kind of maybe like three different ways of doing this. Or three different campaigns. So one is we'll have our kind of consistent majority of our ad spend and prospecting on that hero product, and we're consistently testing things within that campaign. A second campaign would be like an Advantage Plus shopping campaign, which is like a dynamic product feed off of your entire like website catalog. And there we're optimizing for like, typically it's just like highest ROAS. And the one kind of key note is on the prospecting, we're typically optimizing for net new customers, a new customer purchase event. And then the dynamic catalog campaigns is just max ROAS. Like sometimes you're serving to existing customers, sometimes new, but then we're just making sure there might be products that people want to buy at any given time, and we're letting Meta kind of figure that out. And then the third is like, so like a new product or an additional product that they want to see if they can potentially make into a hero product or something they can also push a lot of prospecting spend behind. That we'll take it out and we'll have a smaller budget behind it and start doing more methodical testing. So I think one key thing that we've figured out is it's like so important to have a really good offer. And so you really have to figure out the best language, the best framework for that offer. We just launched an offer with a fishing brand we have right now. It's a March Madness offer, right? And it's for like crappie rods. Mm-hmm. And it's 2 for $100. And these rods are typically pretty expensive. I think they're like $130 each. And historically our CACs on it were about $60. And right now they're $5.
Wow.
And they're just flying off the shelves digitally. Mm-hmm. So that's the other thing too, is you figure out that key offer that really works and like kind of the messaging around it. It does a ton of your sales too.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and I think that's smart to be able to forecast that out for founders and CEOs and heads of marketing. If I'm in your position, like, yes, we're going to lose some margin because you're offering up a free good or a discount on the front end. Our CAC is cut. What is that? I mean, cut in a fraction of
like 90% of the CAC, yeah.
So you're going to make it up and then some.
Yeah.
And then the lifetime value of your customer is going to be greater. Your AOV is probably going to go up. And so modeling that out to show them, well, in the end, our profitability is going to be better and we're going to drive top line.
Well, that's a key thing. And I know we're almost up on time here, but I really want to drive home, which is you have to model these things out for sure. You can't just go throw random offers out because you will run out of cash. But the other big thing that I think is important to emphasize is that your hero product is only meant to bring people in the door. And you want to do that hopefully with their first order profitability. So they come and make that purchase, you still make a little bit of profit off of it. But the vast majority of your revenue ideally is made through lifetime value. So your customers keep coming back and making purchases on other products. That's how businesses truly grow in this space. So that's the whole thing. An offer is just, a hero product and a new customer offer is just meant to bring people in. But you really don't want to be advertising to have people purchase again. You ultimately want your email, your text, or overall just the quality of your products to bring people back and really increase that lifetime value. And if you can understand that ratio between the new customer CAC and your lifetime value, you can model that out. You start to develop an engine where you can really scale, right?
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, awesome. So I'll let you say the last thing here. Anything you want to say about what you do in terms of outdoor CMO and Juniper and James? We're up on time, so I just want to make sure that you kind of get your plug in here. But I'm super excited about wearing these. I'm super excited about seeing what you do with this brand because of obviously your background and your knowledge in this space. But curious, like any last thoughts here?
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me on. It's always just a natural, easy conversation with you. And I think with Juniper and James, we're really just focused on the Southern gentleman, the Southern golfer, and I feel like this Texas through the Southeast demographic, they don't really have like a true golf apparel brand with a brand backbone. And I feel like through our original content and through products that are built for them in this warmer climate, they'll have a new golf apparel brand. So hopefully y'all see it around town. And and then on the outdoor CMO side of my fractional CMO business, if there are any founders, CEOs, marketers out there who are looking for a little extra help solving their biggest problems, that's what I'm here for. So
Awesome.
Hit me up.
Cool. Awesome. Well, really appreciate you being here today, and this is a great conversation.
Thanks, Al.
Awesome. Thanks.